Hi everybody, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra, here today with Tim Forshee of Forshee Law, one of the preeminent experts in legal use of force in America. I'm just going to say that.
Wow, John.
I gave you that.
Man,
well
okay.
done.
I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, you get out to more people in America than anybody else every week.
By virtue of you, my friend. Thank you.
And I want to talk about, we recently had a video on the big channel from Sydney, Ohio, where a guy busted down the door of his ex-girlfriend's house, and dad had warned him that he had a gun and get away and go away. And when the guy busted down the door, dad shot him through the door, shot him 3 times and fatally. And there was some hubbub in the community about the fact that he was unarmed, and one of those shots went in his back. Let's talk to the attorney about those. Firearms Legal Protection is who I trust to help me after a use of force incident. If you're a Firearms Legal Protection member, you can attend our monthly Active Self-Protection training seminars for free. Check out all they offer to their members at the link below. So before we get started on that, interesting fun fact, I found a screenshot from the video interview of the family that their front door was reinforced. So he didn't have little cheapy screws.
Interesting.
He had big 3-inch case hardened screws.
And he was still able to get through.
Still able to bust through the door. So listen, they'll slow a guy down, but it doesn't turn your
Well, it
face.
sounded from the video like the door crunched, so I wonder if it was a hollow core door. Which,
Something.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't have a hollow core door on your front door. Don't do that. But so do you think that not indicting dad was the wise choice?
Again,
you only know so much.
Exactly. I only see that little bitty thumbnail sketch from the video, and I was really glad that we got to see the aftermath where the neighbor was involved, and we heard the father talking through the door and stuff, because I think that shed a lot of light on the case too. But yes, I do think if I'd been on that grand jury, I would have returned no true bill as well. I don't think that was an indictable shooting. Yeah.
So generally, as a general rule, we say don't shoot people through doors.
Amen.
However, it seems like in this case, I think it's probably okay.
Again, I don't know what the layout of the house was. What we would tell our viewers is get a security door, get a solid door. Why not even get a solid steel door and then put the case hardened screws in? In other words, let's make it really hard to kick that door in. It looked to me like that guy that got shot, the estranged boyfriend, weighed about $150.
Yeah, he wasn't a huge
it wasn't
dude.
like he was a bodybuilder. So, and he was able to break down that door. So what if that had been a 350-pound guy on methamphetamine? He'd have walked right through it, right?
Yeah.
So spend the $1,000, and it looked like it was a nice house in a nice neighborhood. Spend the $1,000, reinforce your front door, maybe reinforce your back door, make it harder for somebody to break in. But that's all hindsight. They didn't have that done, right? So my next question would be, did you have the option of fleeing to a more secure portion of the home? Could you have locked yourself into a master bedroom while the cops were on the way? Maybe there's 3 other children at home under the age of 8. I don't know what the situation was. So I would prefer that rather than shoot somebody, again, that should always be your last option, not your first and only option. So I don't know what the layout of the house looked like and what other options we had, but I'd sure prefer that. But again, that doesn't mean that it would be illegal to use that option, the option of lethal force.
Well, a myth that I've seen in the comments is, some people say, well, I live in California and we don't have castle doctrine in California. That's not true. Literally every state in the union has castle doctrine. If you live in another country, that varies for sure. But in the United States, there's not a single state that does not have castle doctrine that says that in your home, you have no duty to retreat.
Well, you have no duty to retreat, and there's a presumption that somebody who illegally breaks into your home is there to cause you havoc, cause you a problem. But again, it's a rebuttable presumption.
So you better explain a rebuttable presumption.
Rebuttable presumption is breaking and entering, just so everybody knows this, does not require a splintered door. No. It does not require that somebody kicks in your screen and they're crawling to your window. Breaking and entering is anybody who enters your home without an invitation to do so.
Yeah, turning the doorknob.
So if I'm in the restroom and my door's unlocked and a 9-year-old girl selling Girl Scout cookies walks into my front room because she doesn't understand manners and simple courtesy to sell me Girl Scout cookies, and I walk around the corner, people that are big advocates of the castle doctrine, I guess, would tell me that I can shoot her.
Yeah.
And the issue is, how can you possibly say that she's posing a deadly risk? Well, I always say, well, cholesterol for me. I mean, if I had three thin minutes, I'm in the ICU. But clearly, there's no way anybody could rationally say she poses a threat. So you can't. It's not like you can shoot her because of the castle doctrine. It's not a hunting license, right?
All right. So your comment in the description: which flavor of Girl Scout cookies is the best, and why is it Thin Mints?
It better be Thin Mints.
It got to be reasonable, right? You know, an 85-year-old woman with a walker enters your home illegally.
Exactly.
And you shoot her to death.
Exactly. And you say, well, because I can.
Right.
What?
But of course, in the case that we're looking at,
Right.
I think that they were talking to him through the Ring doorbell.
They told him not to come through.
Yeah, and through the door. Dad hollered at him, told him he had a gun.
Yep.
Hey, get away, get out of here. If you come through that door, you know, I'm gonna shoot you.
Right.
Then he didn't fire until the door had been breached. And so, given all that, I go, okay, all right, I got no problem. Like, you know, I think he kind of went. Now, could he have potentially backed up even further? Most people don't have a good safe room.
Correct.
They just don't.
That's right.
I think you should, but
It's
most
not.
people don't.
It's not as everybody thinks it's Jodie Foster level expensive, and it's not.
Nah, a few $100 and
Yeah, I mean, a steel door and a steel door frame is $1,000 tops.
Yeah,
You know, so
tops.
yeah.
Good solid lock on
Right.
it, you know what I mean, and you're in business. But I think that given that is okay. Now, I think the other part of that is the family is so upset because he was shot in the back. But I think the timing of the 3 shots was so fast.
Yeah, I mean, and then we've seen that in case after case after case where the prosecutor will say, well, the first 3 shots were legal, but the last 2 went behind the midline in the back. That's because he was falling and
Yeah,
he
he was
turned as he
turning,
fell.
yeah.
My brain can't make my trigger finger stop faster than a quarter to a half a second.
Yep.
And in that amount of time, the body can easily turn 180 degrees. So, yeah.
And I could easily fire 2 shots in that time
Exactly,
frame.
but as you're trying to tell yourself to stop shooting. And people don't realize that, but a good competitive shooter can fire 7, 8 shots a second.
Yeah.
So,
True.
you know.
So, you know, at the end of things, the other part of that, next thing that we saw in that particular one was that the family got upset, and as in the news, right? The family of the deceased, guy who is stupid enough to ignore his ex-girlfriend's repeated call to leave me alone and gets shot for that by breaking into a house, and his family's upset. And I think that you got to expect that.
Well, of course his family's upset. I mean, somebody shot my kid. Of course I'm going to be upset. But the issue is, I mean, let's be honest. This is probably a mental health issue, right? This kid had some problems. He read too much Shakespeare, and he was going to be, you know, Romeo, and he was going to scorn Juliet. And it turned out to be a horrible tragedy, just like Shakespeare.
Yeah.
But that's not the fault of the homeowner that was defending themselves.
Right.
You know, so, yeah.
It's not. No. So in this one, I think was a good example of an appropriate use of deadly force. But I will say, if you go on the MLS right now, that house is for sale.
I'm quite sure, yeah.
And because why? I mean, I don't want to live there anymore.
And again, the guys, the thing that can't be said too often is that it should be your last option, not your first and only option. If your home defense strategy consists of 1 gun, and that's it, we're not talking about. Now, these guys had a Ring doorbell. You said they had case hardened screws. So they obviously given it some thought. So God bless them. But yeah, if your gun is your first and only option to defend your family, that's a bad idea. Because even if you're successful and you defend your family, then you live with this stigma the rest of your life, and you have nightmares the rest of your life, and your kids are taunted the rest of their lives, and your house is up for sale for $50,000 less than I mean, just everything is it's just horrible.
But of course, at the end of the day, if you go, well, listen, I tried my best and I had no other option. He was going to, you know, hurt my daughter, hurt my wife, hurt me.
Then sleep well.
And then, okay, I did what I had to do. Right. And if it, you know, cost me some money and the neighbors don't like me and so I move out to another place, well, those suck,
That's
but
right.
they're better than
my daughter's still alive.
Yeah, we're still here to talk about it. So, guys, man, this is important stuff to think through. And I think the social end of it, important to think through so that you're ready for it.
Right.
So that you know, hey, you know, this is important. Having a great attorney and somebody who doesn't just understand criminal defense, but understands self-defense.
Yeah.
Because the self-defense portion of criminal defense is a tiny little sliver of it. Yep. I think is super important.
And I think there's a lot of people, like a lot of prosecutors for sure, that don't understand this, how fast the human brain can react and how fast it can't, and how fast you're shooting and how it takes you time to stop shooting, and when the body, they don't understand that. They just go, well, they shot him in the back.
Yeah.
And they might not even be nefarious. They might just think, well, gosh, you're not allowed to shoot people in the back, so that's clearly murder. They don't understand the actual dynamics of this. So it's just...
this is going to be next week's topic. I have a question for Tim on this that came up a few weeks ago from the armed attorneys. So we'll get to that one next week. Tim, I appreciate you.
Always. You bet. Thanks.